You know, I've always heard about going deep in your shadow work journey, but wasn't prepared to go quite this deep. So, I'm someone that have always have had vivid dreams, didn't really recognize it, but more coming into that understanding now as time progresses. And it definitely got interesting with these dreams that I've been having the past week or so. And I say that because I had a dream that would make even Sigmund Freud perk up at the discussion around it. So, if anybody that don't know, Sigmund Freud is a famous psychologist, psychoanalyst that really had a fascination with sexual themes and dreams. So, I had a dream the other day that, like I said, would make him perk up, and it involved my mom. And it woke when I woke up, I was pretty much like, what the fuck was that? Like, why would I even have a dream of that nature? And little did I know the amount of healing that was that dream contained, that was showing me, or was intended to show me, cycles or a cycle that I am repeating, and why I'm repeating that cycle. Where did that imprint come from? And so ultimately, I'm not going to go into the details of the dream because it's not important. But in essence, the theme of the dream was, as I saw my mom sad and I wanted to make her happy. And as I was reading through a breakdown of the dream, basically, and some images flashed in my mind, and they were different images from my childhood that I saw my mom in a depressed or sad state. I didn't know why she was sad. I didn't know why she was depressed. All I knew is at a young age, I couldn't do anything about it. Basically, I just had to observe it and witness it without understanding it. And so, fast forward, being an adult, didn't think anything of it, to where now, because of the dream and deciphering it to understand what it meant, I realize that I've been a people pleaser, and that I have a savior, also comes with that a savior complex, especially as it relates to females, women that I come in contact with. And so that's one thing that I've noticed, a theme over the past couple of years, is all the women that come into my life, they all seem to be navigating some complex dynamic in their life. And because of having that savior complex, I always want to put on that cape and try and do things in their lives to try and help them not feel the weight of what it is that they're going through. Just like I observed my mom carrying the weight and dealing with the weight of whatever it is that she was going through. At a young age, I couldn't do anything about it. But damn it, I'm an adult now. I can do things about it. I have a job, I make money. I make very good money. I can do certain things to help people. And in my mind, I could utilize that to help lighten the load in women's lives that I came in contact with, whether it was platonic or romantic. And so I never really understood why I was that way. I mean, obviously there's a good person, a good-hearted person that generally wants to help people because they see that they're in dire straits or they're in certain circumstances. But sometimes, just because people need help or ask for help, sometimes not helping them or just giving them a listening ear is the best form of help that we can give. And that's something that I've been navigating and learning myself. And I'm thankful for Spirit and my Spirit team for giving me that dream, no matter how, you know, interesting it was, because now I was able to connect the dots that my people pleasing, and more so my savior complex, came from and was developed in childhood because I saw my mom in those depressed states, and I couldn't do anything at that particular moment in time. But now, fast forward, being an adult, there's a certain I guess by being adult, I'm equipped with more tools, I guess, so to speak, that I can help females whenever they, or women whenever they do come into my life and they're facing challenges. Some of the challenges, is nothing wrong with being able to help out, and other times there are things that you shouldn't get involved in, but because of having that savior complex and wanting to help, you feel like you have to involve yourself in that situation, and you have to stay involved in that situation because this person needs you to save them, all while discounting yourself and not pouring into yourself the way that you should be, because you're so focused on trying to save someone else. Meanwhile, you're over here potentially drowning, needing a lifeline, but you don't care if you drown as long as the other person succeeds. And obviously there's no way to live life, because there's a life for me to experience just like there's a life for you to experience, that we need the focus to be on ourselves. There's nothing wrong with helping people, but we shouldn't be helping people to the detriment of ourselves. And for the large majority of my life, that's what I've been doing, is I've been helping other people to the detriment of myself. And so with that dream, it showed me why I was that way, where it came from. So that way I was kind of able to, I just watched the Butterfly Effect movie the other day, so it kind of reminds me of that, to where I didn't have a notebook or journal about it, but just kind of going back to that memory and recognizing that I saw my mom sad. I wanted to save her because I couldn't save her. Now that I'm older, now that I'm an adult and have more tools, now I will make up for the times where I couldn't save my mom by trying to save all these other individuals that I come in contact with, while discrediting or discounting myself. So now that I had that awareness, I had that understanding, now it was time to integrate it. And just like the universe does always, is once we've had a lesson, we've understand something, then a similar situation will come into our awareness that will, quote unquote, test us to see, are we going to keep that cape on or put that cape on, or are we finally going to take it off and approach a situation with compassion but not discount ourselves. So shortly, a day or so after having that meeting, my next door neighbor, she needed a help. She wanted to borrow a vehicle, a car. And so because of the businesses, I have two older vehicles, and then I have one that I purchased to put on Toro. So the one on Toro, as they say, booked and busy and stuff. So, but the other two cars, they're older vehicles, and unfortunately, I haven't been great with keeping up on the maintenance on them. So, I mean, they obviously still drive. One's a manual vehicle, so majority of people don't even know how to drive stick shift manual cars these days anymore. So, I could try and let her drive that one, but if she didn't know how to drive a manual, it's a 2003, so you're looking at a very old vehicle with certain nuances and stuff that I'm able to navigate because it's my car. But if I'm going to lend it to someone else, it's a car that I'm not really comfortable with lending out because of how it is, the age of it, and it being a stick shift. So that one, I didn't think it was a good car to lend out. I had another car that's a 2011. It's older as well. It's got some other issues that's going on with it. So do they drive? Do they get you from point A to point B? Yes. But I didn't feel comfortable with loaning them out to someone. And so in that instance, I could have said, hey, she needs help. She wants a car. I've got plenty of cars. Are they the best cars? No, but they will get her around, so to speak. And it could be a risk to take in it. So, but let me go ahead and just let her do it because I want to save her. I want to help her. I want to be a resource that she can lean on to because she's navigating a complex dynamic right now. Or I can say, hey, Brandon, yes, you have the vehicles, but they're not the best vehicles in the world to loan to people, because if something happens to them while they're driving that vehicle, then the responsibility is on you. So in that moment, I had two choices. I either could put the cape on, let someone drive older vehicles that I wasn't too comfortable with allowing them to do just in the name of helping someone, or I had an option to say, well, hey, it sucks. I understand that that's a tough situation you're in. I do have vehicles, but I'm not comfortable with loaning them out because of some maintenance issues that have going on with it. neither option, just looking at those two options, which options was Brandon going to take? Brandon's used to taking option A of discounting himself, putting himself out there just to say he can help. But is Brandon going to take option B this time because of what he's learned and the new understanding that he has brought into his awareness, or that we brought into his awareness, that he was able to see and then decode and deconstruct as a way of filling that gap, or understanding why that gap exists, so that way it can be filled. So when situations come up later on in life, when I would have normally fallen into that hole or fallen into that gap, I now can walk across unimpeded, while still sharing and sharing that compassion that I have within me. So, and in essence, I took option B. I was like, hey, that sucks. The vehicles that I do have, they're kind of janky, and I really wouldn't feel comfortable, kind of lending them out. And so I didn't know how she would respond to it, because this was the first time that I had stepped out of that people-pleasing role, or out of that savior complex role. And anytime you're doing anything new, there's a little bit of timidness or fear that can be attached to it, because you don't know how people will respond to it. So, but lo and behold, she responded back, hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. Hey, I understand. Thank you for responding. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. And that was it. And so from this point forward, I mean, what do you think, and how do you think I'm going to respond when people come into my reality where I normally, or I feel called to put that cape on to go save people? What do you think I'm going to fall back on? What do you think I'm going to remember? So that way I can move forward in the best way possible, while honoring myself first. And it can sound a little bit selfish, but that's why I say still moving forward with that compassion, because it's all about discounting yourself in lieu of someone else. So, not that we can't help people, but there's a right and wrong way of doing things, and you just don't want to discount yourself, whenever you're going through that process and stuff. So Mr. Sigmund Freud, I will definitely say I can kind of understand your viewpoint on dreams, especially in that context, because as I said, I was not ready for that particular dream. I definitely woke up scratching my head. But if those types of dreams will help me understand myself and the various dynamics that I have and that I'm navigating unconsciously to bring those things conscious now, then I welcome those dreams each and every day. And I would encourage you to, before you go to sleep, ask the universe, ask your spirit team, those that you work with, to give you dreams to show you where your quote unquote blind spots are right now, as a way of trying to understand those blind spots, so that way you can make them visible and fill in the gap, just like I did in my life. So that way when those situations come up in your life, because you recognize it and you're able to work through it in a much better way, doesn't mean that those situations and those circumstances will no longer come in your life. But when they do come in your life, you're now equipped with the emotional intelligence and with the foresight and knowledge of how to navigate it with compassion, but also honoring yourself in the process. So definitely will leave it with that. So like I said, it was definitely a lot. I'm still each and every day kind of picking pieces apart from that. But that's the whole thing, and the journey of life is each and every day we learn new things and we garner different insights from things that we thought we knew the day before, but the new day always brings in new sights and new thoughts. So just leave you with that, so I would say, hey, what dreams have you had recently, or have you had that still stick with you, that was kind of off the wall and weird, that you haven't really been able to decipher? I would encourage you to type it out, write it out, do whatever you have to do, and throw it into AI and see what AI says, from a standpoint only of not telling you what the dream is about, but giving you that perception shift or a different way of looking at it. And then as you read through it, the messaging, what images pop into your head from your childhood that you can potentially relate to the behavior that you're experiencing, that you're trying to work on or bring conscious. So, all right, family, I feel like I'm starting to kind of ramble and stuff. So I feel like I've said the crux of what's going on in essence. And so I hope this has helped you in some way. As always, just know I love you. I love you. I love you. Today's hoodie is 1111, made in God's image. So it's by this gentleman I know called Pray for Love. I'm not for sure. I have a lot of his hoodies, so basically I'll kind of drop the Instagram handle in the description there. So this is an old hoodie that he had from back in the day and stuff. So, but channel's called Hoodie Hitler, so I figured I would start shouting out kind of the different hoodies that I have on, either ones I purchased that I love and kind of gives me that good energy, or those that I've made and that kind of gives me that good energy as well. So, but all right, family, just know I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a great day.